for joining today. So today is a practice targeted at facilitating tissue recovery, pliability and hydration for those of us who need a little bit of post-running recovery. So we'll be focusing on the feet, the legs, the hips and the lower back. We'll be getting to the full circumference of the hip joint, so quads, hip flexors, outer hips, hamstrings, back of hips, and the inner thighs. And we'll also be accessing or finding a little bit of release from tension that can accumulate from the impact of running in the lower back through gentle twists and side bends. You won't need any props, but if you know that you are feeling particularly tight or rigid or sticky at the moment, then you might have blocks nearby if you have them. Okay, let's get started. So we'll start on hands and knees, all fours. And let's tuck our toes under, and we're going to start with our feet and move up the legs into the spine. So let's sit the hips back on the heels now and come into this lovely, lovely pose that can be very intense. So if it feels very intense for you in the feet, then you might have the weight a little further forward and the hands on the mat in front of the knees here. Sometimes I like to just look over and use my hands to help to tuck my little toe under, which can be a little bit rebellious and try to escape the experience. So let's just be here together now and take 3 breaths. As best you can, relax the jaw, soften the face, soft, steady gaze. One more breath here. Okay, we'll gently come forward onto the hands if you haven't already. And now we'll lift the knees, shift the hips back and start to lower the soles of the feet and the heels towards the mat. And we're just going to let the heels be heavy. And observing sensation here through the feet, the ankles and the lower leg. Some of us will have the heels a little higher, others of us will have the heels a little closer towards the mat. We're all different. Remember to be kind to yourself. If you are feeling stable here and at ease, you might even lift the hands away from the mat and really allow the heels to drop. Maybe they come all the way down to the mat. Again, no big deal either way. And then on our next exhalation, let's lift the hips and fold forward over the legs in Uttanasana, standing forward fold, and take a moment just to drape here. Have your feet about hip width distance apart. And something that's really common is to have the weight shifting all the way back to the heels. But just experiment with shifting the weight a little further forward over the feet to the balls of the feet, as though it's going to go so far forward that the heels will almost lift away from the mat. Might even feel like you're going to fall forward. And notice how that feels. And then shift the weight again until the weight's just nice and even, front to back. And the knees might have a lovely little bend here, that's perfect. Let's keep our feet as they are as we walk our hands forward towards the top of the mat, and we'll come into our first downward facing dog. Take a moment just to fidget, fix, cycle through the legs, wriggle the hips or the tail a little bit. Just arriving. Still arriving in the practice, really. And even though our practice will be a little more lower body focused, legs and hips and lower back, spread your awareness evenly throughout the whole body and just take stock. How is the body today? What's present for you in the body and the body-mind? And then when you're ready, keep the feet hip-width distance, but now take a lovely deep bend of the left knee, and you'll lift the left heel all the way up over the ball of the left foot, so you're still getting release through the sole of the left foot. Nice deep bend in the left knee, and right heel really nice and heavy. And have this sense of the ball of your right foot and your right heel, so the foot of the leg that is straightening, pulling back. So ball of right foot and right heel pulling the mat back beyond the back of the mat. And next exhalation, let's release that and step our right foot forward between the hands, lower the left knee to the mat. And if you can today, keep your back toes tucked under. Let's bring both hands up onto the front thigh and shift the hips up and back. So the back hip, your left hip is above your back knee. And then when you're ready, press the ball of your back foot firmly down into the mat, almost like you want to press the mat or press earth away from you. And you might notice as soon as you start to create that action of pressing the ball of the back foot down, sensation, aliveness, things wake up a little bit here in the front of your left thigh and your left hip. And keeping your back foot pressing down, start to lower the hips a little forward and down. Easy breath, steady breath. Back foot still pressing downward. Let's reach the left arm up overhead. And we'll gently lean over to the right side. So you can keep your right hand on the thigh today and just lean the torso up and over towards the right side. And we'll come back up to center and release hands to the mat and step back, downward facing dog. And once again, feet hip width distance, and this time it's the right knee that bends deeply and the right heel that really lifts up away from the mat. And the left heel, left leg as straight as is reasonable for you, left heel dropping. And then create the action of pulling the ball of the left foot and the back of the left heel back beyond the back of the mat. And just notice the sensations in the left lower leg, and then spread the light of your awareness from the left lower leg through the rest of the body, bathing your body in the light of your awareness. Acknowledging every cell of your body with your awareness. Such a nourishing thing to do. Next exhale, let us go ahead and second side, left foot forward, right knee to mat, right toes, back toes tucked under, both hands to front thigh. And if you're like me, you'll notice immediately a difference between sides. So for me, there's a lot more tightness and stickiness on this side. And maybe that's just an asymmetry or an asymmetry caused by an injury, perhaps. So we're all asymmetrical. Back foot presses firmly down into the mat. Notice how that changes your experience, even though looking from the outside in, if somebody was looking from the outside, nothing's moved, nothing seems to have changed, but from the inside, things will have shifted most likely as you press the back foot down, and then we'll start to glide the hips just a little forward and down. Keep pressing the back foot into the mat. Right arm reaches. And we'll sweetly lean up and over to the left. Sweet little side bend to the left. Let's return to center, hands to mat and step back. Downward dog. One more little play with lunges today. So this time we'll step our right foot outside of our right hand. Have the foot nice and wide and the toes turn slightly out. And know that you can always lower the knees first to step the foot outside the hand here. We'll allow the hips to shift forward and down, and the hands can be about under the shoulders. And if you feel a little bit congested or restricted through the front of the chest, and you'd like a little more breadth and levity through the upper body, then you might bring your hands onto blocks today. That's a really nice option here. So lizard lunge, hands under shoulders to begin with, hips forward and down. And sometimes, especially when we have difficulty stepping the foot forward and we come into a little bit of a shorter stance, sometimes that means we need to tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee up, shift the knee back and lower it back down. So you've got more space to lower the hips forward and down. Okay. Take another breath. And from here, hands on the floor or hands on blocks. Let's pick up our back foot. Draw the foot in towards the back of your left hip and reach the right hand, same hand as leg, back towards the foot. We'll hold the inside of the foot today so your thumb is pointing straight down. And if the foot feels miles away, grab a towel or something you can use as a strap and just lasso it around the foot and hold on to that instead. And then instead of turning the torso to the right, which is lovely sometimes to do, but today we want to get a little more into the quadricep, the front of the thigh. So we're going to turn the chest forward. And as we turn the chest forward, we can gently draw the heel in. One more breath. And then we'll let go. Foot to floor, hands to blocks or floor. And now you have options. You might keep the hands on the floor or on blocks, or you might even bring the forearms down onto the floor or blocks. But keep the integrity of the pose here. So again, we're focusing more on the lower body, but there's an awareness of what's going on in the upper body. If you're rounding and dropping the head off the necklace of the spine, and there's difficulty breathing or tension in the jaw, all just because you want to lower your elbows down onto the floor, then just noticing that, right? Normal to maybe be ambitious or to want to push your edges. It's not necessarily a bad thing to push the edges. And then just see what gives you the most integrity today. And then for the last couple of breaths, whether you're on the forearms or on the hands, let's tuck the back toes under and lift the back knee up. Front thigh drops. Back leg, back thigh lifts up. One more full breath in. And then we'll exhale and pop the blocks off to one side if you are using them and step back. Downward dog. Take a moment to wriggle or bounce a little in your down dog. And second side when you're ready. Last side, left foot wide, outside the left hand. And right knee, back knee, lowering. Both hands are inside the front foot, and the front foot's turned out a little bit, about 45 degrees, with the toes drifting out off the mat. Just gives us a little more space in that front hip to now guide the pelvis forward and down. Hands on blocks or just hands on the mat. And as you encourage that evenness of the breath, right? Inhalation and exhalation, even, and there's a smooth texture to the breath. You can allow those qualities to be reflected in the awareness in the whole body, from fingertip to toe tip. And when you're ready to lift the back foot, let's go ahead and do that. Find your strap or your towel, or reach the left hand back to hold the inside of the foot today. So palm of hand facing in toward the foot, thumb pointing down, or hand holding the strap, and turn the chest forward. And the sensation here in this shape can be quite intense. So just notice if you've started to grip a little in other parts of the body to hold on or to tighten, and see if you can breathe. And maybe it means you need to back off a little or come out a little early. Last inhale. And then exhale to release. Hands to mat and come back to center a moment and choose. Hands stay where they are, or lowering forearms to mat or forearms to blocks. Practicing skillfully, exercising discernment. So there's the wisdom there in the practice. And tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Let's enjoy one more full breath in. And exhale back to down dog. This is our last downward dog. So let's just reach through the arms, press the hands into the mat, lift the hips up and back a moment. And exhale, lower the knees to the mat. We'll sit the hips to one side and bring the legs in front of us, soles of feet together, knees separating outward into Baddha Konasana. Hands can rest on the fronts of the shins or the ankles and just sit tall. If you feel like the pelvis is rolling backwards and the spine is rounding and it's quite difficult to hold yourself up, then take a folded blanket or towel and just elevate the hips a little bit. It'll be really helpful to help maintain that length through the spine. So let's keep our left leg where it is and reach our right leg out on an angle. So we've got an obtuse angle with the right leg, and the left heel can come in any amount that's comfortable in towards the pubic bone, in towards the pelvis. We'll take a moment and just lean on the hands and just find that first edge here. That first nudging up against sensation without it being too intense. And then we'll lift the torso and turn the torso towards our bent knee, our left knee, and hands either side of the bent knee. And take time here to lengthen or feel as though you're really lifting up out of your lower back and turning towards the left. And then keeping the left hand where it is, down on the mat outside the knee. Let's lean forward in the same direction as the knees pointing and reach the right arm diagonally in the same direction as the knees pointing too. Not worrying if the right hip lifts up off the mat. It's totally okay to do that. We'll gently rise. Return to center. Hands behind you, and we'll switch sides. Draw the left leg out and the right leg in. Take your time to settle. Anchor through the legs and ease forward a moment. Sometimes it can be nice to sway or wriggle a little side to side here. So if that feels appropriate for you, you can, or you might just stay in stillness. And we'll come upright and keep some activity through the left leg, the left heel, calf and thigh, anchoring down into the mat as we turn to the right. And gently lift to turn, lift and turn. So these little variations are lovely because we're getting into the inner thigh, the backs of the legs too, so the back of the hip. And with the twisting motion and the side bending motion, we're bringing the release up into the spine and the lower back. So delicious. So good. And right hand can stay there. And let's lean forward and reach through the left arm. There's no need to hold the head up. You can let the head drop. Left ear next to left bicep. And even though you're turning towards the right, the awareness is still also through the rest of the body, all the way down to the toe tips of your left leg, the leg that you're turning away from. The awareness is in the back body, the back of the head, the low back ribs. And let's gently rise. Okay, let's close the legs. Use the hands to support you. Draw the legs in and we'll come and lay down on our backs now. Knees bent, soles of feet to the mat. Let's go ahead and cross our right thigh on top of our left thigh, crossing the thigh all the way across on top. And we'll pick up the feet and draw the legs in, hands to fronts of shins to shins or the front of the ankle, and gently draw everything in the lower body in towards the upper body. And you can play here with allowing the heels to be heavy, dropping down towards the back of your hips. Or you might find interesting sensation lifting the feet away from the back of the hips and pulling the shins and the feet outward away from one another. Find a sweet spot and take a breath here. And then we'll release and just switch sides. Cross the left thigh all the way across on the right thigh. Bend the knees, reach the hands down to take a hold of the shins, the fronts of the knees or the ankles, and gently draw in. Play with the feet lifting away or staying a little closer towards the back of the hips. And just noticing what's arising, the constellation of sensation in the outer hip thigh area, and allowing the attention to then trickle and river through the rest of the body, acknowledging the whole body once again. Next exhalation, let's let that go. Bend the knees, soles of feet to the mat. Open the arms out wide in a cactus shape or a little letter T shape. And we'll lift the hips, shift them a little bit up and over to the left side. Pick up the feet and allow the knees to fall to the right. Last twist. Just unwinding any residual tension here. Those of us that feel like they have the space today might even straighten through that top leg and hold the outer edge of the foot with the right hand, but that's just an option. Last breath in. And on the exhale, we'll release. Lift the knees back up to center, feet to mat. Shift the hips up and over towards the right side of the mat. And we'll lift the feet and let the knees fall to the left. Supine twist. Second side. And for those of you that enjoyed the practice, if it felt delicious for you, then please feel free to subscribe. That way you know when a new practice is released. And if you'd like to enjoy longer practices, then those are available on my Patreon, where you can also make special practice requests. The link is in the description below. Let's gently draw back up to center, feet to mat, hips to center, and maybe a final hug of the knees into the chest. We'll let the legs fall out long and the hands just rest alongside the body. And notice how it feels. Notice the echoes of the practice for you today. The practice echoing throughout the body now as you settle into stillness. Observing not only the physical body, but attuning to the energetic body and noticing the qualities or the characteristics present for you today here too. Aware of the different mind states that might be present for you, thoughts, feelings, arising in the field of your awareness. And if you know that you would like to choose to rest here in Shavasana, which is certainly my invitation, then you might just press pause and rest back in silence. But if it's time for you to move on, then you might gently wiggle the fingers and the toes, bend the knees, soles of feet to the mat, and pour yourself to a side, pressing slowly, gently up to sit. Thank you, beautiful one, for sharing your practice all the way to the end. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace, peace, peace. See you next time.